Hello, my dear friends, this is Blagomir with you, and I'm happy to welcome you to my Vedic channel. At your request, through numerous comments, today I am recording a significant message, initiatory, into which I am embedding the great wisdom of our ancestors, our great ancestors, the Slavs, on the topic of the Eclipse Corridor, which will occur in the month of March. And yes, it will affect each of us. And now, looking ahead, I want to share with you some important insights, crucial keys, and above all, astronomical and astrological knowledge that will help you make the most of this time and perform the necessary practices. At the end of the video, you will also find recommendations for each zodiac sign during this eclipse corridor. So watch and listen to this video until the end. It will once again, as always, be filled with wisdom and sacred knowledge. So, March 2025. What kind of month is it? And why do many of my colleagues already call it the toughest month for each zodiac sign? The fact is that in March, several astrological phenomena converge. Well, first, for example, retrograde Venus. From March 2, it takes effect until April 13th. Also, as I have already mentioned, the eclipse corridor, which I will discuss in more detail in this video, from March 14th to 29th. And by the way, I want to draw your attention to the fact that I have developed a special mystical marathon for this corridor of eclipses, in which we will engage in healing our consciousness and subconscious from negative programs, from karmic pollution, from ancestral negative karma, and so on in more detail. I will also talk about the program of this marathon at the end of the video. Why? Because this is also one of the elements of service, so that you, having gained knowledge, can spend this entire eclipse corridor in practice and achieve a worthy, favorable result. So, my friends, what else awaits us besides retrograde Venus and the eclipse corridor? Is retrograde Mercury. Yes, it returns to us on March 15th and also will begin to assert its influence. That is, it will be active in its retrograde phase until April 7th. And here's what is important for all of us to realize. Well, first of all, it's that 3 days before the eclipse corridor, that is, starting around March 11th, we will begin to feel how events will unfold. On March 14th, a total lunar eclipse will occur, and it will essentially open the eclipse corridor, which will end on March 29th with a solar eclipse. And we understand that eclipses have always had a very symbolic nature in human history. Many events from the 20th century, from the history of the 20th century, are primarily associated with eclipses. This includes the Titanic disaster, the Tunguska meteorite, and many, many others. But our task is to extract the maximum benefit from this. And through the analysis of the tropical zodiac that I conducted, I want to clarify certain points, shed light on this event, and thus the ascending node of the Karmic Axis. Throughout the entire period of the eclipse corridor, it will be in conjunction with a major planetary parade or a stellium of planets. This includes Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, Venus, the ascending node, the Sun, plus the Moon. I have already recorded a separate video for you on my Vedic channel. The great planetary parade about 7 planets. Here, we also take this event into account. Therefore, during the eclipse corridor, the energies of structure, order, and chaos, communicability, sociability, and, a sentimental romanticism will merge together. Both the Sun and the ascending karmic node will add unprecedented activity and predetermination to all events, especially in the restructuring of our world and the change of the very concept or philosophy of world order. Such a planetary alignment is also fraught with natural disasters in the form of heavy rains, snowfalls, floods, tsunamis, earthquakes, even volcanic eruptions. Therefore, as usual, I give you this marker. Just observe what will happen And then, out of interest, write in the comments what changes you noticed. Also, the involvement of the Sun and Uranus in conjunction with the so-called strongest star of the devil, or the Gorgon Medusa, Algol. There is such a star, Algol. It can bring about serious, including man-made, disasters related to electricity, magnetic fields, aviation, and the so-called latest technologies that work against humanity. Therefore, it is also expected that there may be extremely strong solar flares, magnetic storms on Earth as a consequence. And precisely because of this, technology might start to malfunction or experience some interference. The involvement of Neptune in this planetary alignment at the points of eclipse will maximally intensify all our karmic processes, especially those related to the manifestation of the water element. The realm of viruses with our immunity, sleep, collective unconscious, and harmful addictions. And in general, as I mentioned earlier, it will affect aspects of worldview and philosophy. Saturn will ground all of this very strongly, structuring it into a specific material form, directing it into specific management processes that will control society. Well, the main points of the eclipses, lunar and solar, will bring all of this up from the depths of the subconscious into the manifested world, into the conscious part of our mind, and into our external world, indicating that this is only the initial phase of a global process of world or planetary transformation, changes in nature, in people, in society, in worldview, in the management of this world, which in essence will unfold in the coming years. Why? Because forces like Rahu and Ketu, they return sooner or later. After a large cycle, they return to their places and the cycle begins anew. So, what does this eclipse corridor mean for each of us? Look, my friends, firstly, we need to understand that during this corridor, almost all planets align at the nodes or vertices of a rare harmonious figure, the Star of David or Hex. Hex means 6, which indicates a unique magical period of harmonization of our world. And the launch of the so-called global creative project, whose task is to unite everyone into a universal program. This project is already being implemented through social networks. When we are all driven into one or another social network, for now it's all kind of like with the provision of some conditional freedom, yes, meaning we can do what we want. But the database is being maintained, and we already have, whether we like it or not, a habit forming. That is a dependency on social networks, on gadgets. Therefore, on one hand, technology is a plus, but on the other hand, there is a shadow side to everything. Next, the planets in the lineup of a planetary parade or stellium, throughout the entire period of the eclipse corridor, they will form a square, so-called to the white moon. Or the planets, the guardian angel, in Cancer. This will provide an opportunity to bypass all serious problems through difficulties. And probably, if we look at it soberly, the planet Earth itself, our mother, beloved Earth, Bhumi Devi, as they say in the Vedas, she will manifest this role of the guardian angel. That is, the Earth itself, as always, will protect her children. Well, in some of her areas, of course, as I mentioned earlier, points of tension in the form of some cataclysms are not excluded. The descending node will be in conjunction with a fixed star of the highest order. It is called Bennett Nash, which signifies the mourning of a large number of people. It is associated with the realm of the dead, with death, grief, mourning, that is, with the new world, as our Slavic ancestors said, Navni world Nav. The ascending node will be in conjunction with the fixed star sheet. Therefore, during the eclipse corridor period, it can also activate some interesting, yes, creative people who can bring new projects, new ideas, or a strategy to the world, yes, a plan. to get out of difficult situations. Well, for example, a specific step-by-step plan for resolving or ending the military conflict in Ukraine? Please, that is also such a yes moment. Further, in the Eclipse Corridor, already from March 20th, one can say that the astrological and astronomical new year will begin, referring to the day of the spring equinox. If you, my dear beloved subscribers, are interested in the topic of the spring equinox, what practices need to be done, what symbolism, what keys, rituals, ceremonies in general, it is necessary to do so that you can prosper the whole year ahead, please write comments of approximately the following order. Vladimir Yurievich, please record a lecture about the spring equinox. I will understand that you are interested in this, and as always, I will fulfill your wish. Because, you see, we have developed such a relationship, you write, and I fulfill your wish with love and joy, and everyone is happy. You are happy, and I seem to have something to do, right? I serve you as well. I feel great joy from this. Moving on, there is also such a concept that the Saros cycle, this is a draconic period, meaning it is a Saros series with a vivid, pronounced physical manifestation. It can cause accidents, tension, in the form of violence, some unexpected traumatic situations. And it is said that it is better during this time to observe, especially during the Eclipse Corridor period. Safety measures, that is, under no circumstances should you abuse intoxicants, alcohol, other drugs, and so on. And be as careful and cautious as possible, especially on the roads and so on. Next, a solar eclipse, if we take the tropical zodiac, will occur in Aries, activating the axis of war and peace, or the so-called altruism and egoism, that is on one hand individuality, on the other collective consciousness, cooperation. This is also an interesting point, and so if we look into the past, at past events, how all this developed in human history, we will see that the eclipse corridor, especially solar eclipses, can present us with a traditional reset in the usual flow of time and circumstances, and as if on one hand there is an unloading of prarabdha karma, the karma that has already, so to speak, ripened actively in the eclipse corridor begins to unload. On the other hand, some rules and traditions can break down and even come to a halt. There is a reboot of old programs and the installation of some new programs because the old is being destroyed and in its place something new begins to appear and so on. And in this way, there is a gradual restructuring, that is, a reinstallation of the matrix structure of our world. That is, during the eclipse corridor, the matrix itself kind of begins to restructure itself. Therefore, this is a very important and fateful period for each of us. Why? Because it forms a chain of events until the next eclipse corridor, that is, until autumn. And there, as you know, we have Pitru Paksha, a time for honoring ancestors, serving and feeding the lineage. This is also an important event. By the way, in the autumn, we held a big marathon called The Greatness of Ancestors. We now have a course created based on the results of this marathon. Yes, The Greatness of Ancestors. On fundamental work, on working with the lineage. Therefore, it is very important to do this. Very important. This is well, kind of to use in your life. Now let's talk and how, actually. In history and sacred sciences, the idea of the eclipse corridor appears. I am sure many of you have heard about the tree of our reality, or the system of reflecting the universe. For the people of Scandinavia, this is the Yggdrasil tree. For the Slavs, for our great ancestors, it is the sacred oak. Remember, Pushkin wrote about the Lukamori, the green oak. And day and night, the learned cat walks around it on a chain. Further, for the Kabbalists, this is the tree of Sephirot. And in the roots of these trees live the so-called serpents, or chthonic entities, or they were also called dragons, which devour these roots. And on the Yggdrasil tree, if we Let's take Scandinavian mythology. Our human world is Midgard Earth. It occupies a middle position just like Ven, as in the Vedas. In fact, where we live, mortal people in Sanskrit, our earthly world or earthly mandala is also called Mrityubhava. Yes, that is the realm of death. Everything here is born to die. And here, accordingly, are located the lands, seas, and oceans, and mortal people live. And all of this is encircled by the world serpent, which is called Jormungandr. Yes, in Scandinavian. And despite the vast number of serpents in the roots, if we take mythology, there is a personal guardian for our human world, yes, which separates our world from the rest of the universe. And this serpent or this dragon precisely either embodies karma, or it can also be said that it is the karmic axis to maintain a special order of the world structure and the reincarnation of souls on earth, or more precisely, again, if we use mythology, Midgard Earth, in Midgard. And in ancient paganism, my dear ones, there was no concept of good and evil. Why? Because even the Slavic god Chernobog, the ruler of Navi, his son Koshe, the immortal, the many-faced daughter Marina, as you all know, all performed their very important function of maintaining balance and equilibrium in this world. Through what? Through the destruction of the lived, the meaningless, that which destroys the world. Yavi, yes. That is our world, the manifest world, and in their aid they had such mythical beings. Some leading sorcerers understand that they are not entirely mythical characters like the mountain serpent, night basilisk, who sometimes, if we recall our legends, conduct inspections, so-called flights, journeys across the world. In Yavi, stealing beauties, fighting heroes, teaching people wisdom, and so on. Probably that is why in our traditional Slavic culture, which later transitioned into Orthodox, there are so many legends and depictions of Perun, of Georgi the Victorious, who strikes the serpent. And there is a specific depiction where Perun strikes the serpent. Later on, all of this, well, since a new ideology began to be established and was established in Mother Russia. Yes, already there. George the Victorious, but the essence does not change. Yes. Further, in the legend of the Yggdrasil tree, this function is performed by the serpent Jormungandr, who encircles the human world. Yes, that is, protects from the underworld, from the dragons that live underground. And he kind of destroys and feeds on what is not needed by the living world, according to the higher laws of the universe, which often do not even fit into the minds of modern people. That is, he takes what has outlived its time to the world of the dead and sends this energy for further transformation, transmutation, and at the same time, he faithfully guards the boundaries of the worlds. If we take the Vedic concept, there is such a notion, Ananta, Shesha, the great serpent on which Vishnu or Lord Narayana reclines, in the universal causal ocean. I don't know why today I am drawn into this story. My consciousness has expanded and I want to share this with you. It's such a thing. You know, the first experience when within the framework of the same Eclipse Corridor forecast, we provide such an initiation into the cultural agenda, into myths. So let's clarify this as well. If it's relevant and interesting to you, please write. Blagomir Yurievich, we find this very interesting and we want you to continue doing this. Well, enough of that. Let's get closer to the point. Again, as some people say, they don't write. Again, you spread chatter throughout the whole video and so on. We need specific recommendations. What are you talking about here? That's why write comments. Then I'll understand in which direction we should move forward together. So the Karmic Axis, according to many different legends and folk myths, is a dragon or serpent that embodies karma. Yes, but again, let's take Vedic astrology. Jyotish, and what do we have there? Rahu and Ketu. The great head of the serpent or the tail of the dragon. And the main purpose of this axis in our world is, again, the function of balance and self-improvement. The passage of necessary lessons and learning for the soul's ascent through the world tree or the ascending path of development to higher worlds. That is the essence of the teaching. Sanatana Dharma, the essence of all the Vedas or Hinduism, and the same, essentially, knowledge that our great ancestors lived by and used, the Slavs, the ascent into the light, the evolution of the soul, higher worlds, that is, the journey through this great universal tree. Of course, they are now trying in every possible way to distract us from this, to substitute concepts, to say, well, supposedly your ancestors were imbeciles, uneducated fools, vodka, bear, and balalaika. That's what they try to push on us. They are destroying our history and language, but nothing can change the fact that all this strength is in our genes, in our ancestral DNA. No matter how hard they try, the awakening is happening in great strides. Further, the dragon serpent gods, the ancient tree. Yes, as I already mentioned, or the world axis from a unauthorized access to the portal between worlds. For those who are not aware, let me explain that on the Earth's platform, there are a vast number of portals. Remember, in the fairy tale, let's recall, there was Ivanushka, who fell into some well and ended up in the 39th kingdom. The same thing exists to this day. There are portals between worlds, above the higher ones, between the higher worlds and the earth, between the lower worlds. And, well, the initiated people, the sorcerers, they understand all this, know it, and travel. Well, accordingly, everyone else who lives in the matrix unconsciously. They are shown all this, well, presented as, well, supposedly fairy tales and such. You're generally engaged in nonsense. Just look at Instagram, at bare chests. There are dads, and that's all you need further. All worlds, the tree and the throttle to the universal tree, they are interconnected. They are clearly interconnected. That is, we can communicate with each world, with representatives of these worlds and the serpents. They destroy and dismantle everything that, as I already mentioned, has outlived itself, but at the same time threatens the safety of certain worlds. And there are many legends about this. They intersect with each other, complementing one another with information and meanings, but overall the narrative is roughly the same. Therefore, if you are interested in delving even deeper into the topic of mythology, please leave a comment. And since we have a Vedic channel, of course, I would be interested in covering this from a Vedic perspective. The Puranas, yes, Vedic knowledge for you. So nevertheless, express your will in the comments, since you are all creators, adults, and independent people. So write what you want, and we will build on that. Also, an important fact is that during eclipse corridors, the sun and moon are in conjunction with the Karmic Axis. That is, with the serpent or dragon at the boundary of our universe, opening a portal between worlds. That's exactly why. Realizing that during the eclipse corridor, the portal between worlds will be open, I developed a mystical marathon for you. The eclipse corridor, so that you can harness this energy. Firstly, to use it for your own benefit. Secondly, to be protected, so that no astral entities latch onto you and start draining your energy. The fact that in one field we are kind of under protection. And this is a great blessing. Next. What else should we see and realize? The programming language during the eclipse corridors will also undergo a kind of update. And the matrix, as I have already mentioned, restructures itself. That is, there is a reboot of the manifest world. Our reality is being reset to eliminate accumulated errors. This is a concept in programming language, defragmentation of the hard drive, when various errors are corrected and so on. Yes, settings are made and necessary. Adjustments are introduced. If we understand that such a window of opportunity appears, then one would have to be a complete fool, an idiot, not to use it, and just kind of live as usual, pour alcohol down your throat, watch the news, and not understand at all what's happening. That is, our task is this window of opportunity. To use it to fine-tune, to rebuild not the matrix, but our own consciousness, because we understand that the external world, the reality in which we live, directly depends on our internal state. Therefore, our task is to fine-tune, direct, correct our inner world, and so on. Let's move on. Now let's look at the astronomy and astrology of this eclipse corridor. Eclipses. So, as I mentioned, there will be a Saros cycle here. The corridor itself will pass at the 28th degree of the tropical zodiac on the Virgo-Pisces axis. Therefore, the most serious lessons in the form of trials may occur through the spheres to which the matter, in fact, is what it patronizes. This includes health, healthcare, medicine, and immunity. In other words, the sixth house of the horoscope, changes in attitudes towards one's physical body, meticulousness, materialism, rationalism, gaining new experience in developing professionalism, if you will, yes, through significant changes, again, in government bodies and institutions. Therefore, one's vector of development needs to be turned towards issues of one's health, questions of the subconscious, liberation from illusions, healing of ancestral programs, and ancestral karma. Towards closing gestalts and of course looking towards charity and charitable assistance. In all my videos I try to convey this idea to you, my dear ones, that we need to think not only about ourselves. And this is a big key to positive changes both in the country and in the world. That is, when we care about the common good. When we understand that success, our personal success, is connected with the overall success, then we begin to think about charity, not just to think, but to do good for other people. To do good. And then we also feel good, moreover. In our soul, yes, on the level of the soul. Joy appears, such satisfaction, and the world becomes better. Much better, yes. And for people, animals, and nature, which suffers, it becomes much better for them. Therefore, this is a very important moment. Next, the solar eclipse according to the tropical zodiac will manifest for us. Accordingly, in Aries, yes, the axis of war and peace is activated. Yes, I mentioned this. Therefore, on one hand, during this time a military conflict may escalate, or other conflicts, which will serve as a reason for the emergence of a peacekeeping mission and the creation of a new world on completely different principles, yes, and conditions. On our everyday level, we will have to face, each of us, with an increase in our own aggression, irritation, with the necessity, pain, for many to confront, the defense of their personal boundaries, space. Therefore, our task during the entire eclipse corridor is to make efforts to enhance our spiritual practice because reality can change very quickly. Therefore, our task is to be in practice. Next, the eclipse corridor period. Tests may occur through areas of feelings, emotions, loss of harmony, balance for many people, difficulties in diplomacy, problems with beauty, art, creative fields, issues with finances, jurisprudence. Through certain circumstances, it will seem as if life is provoking many people to change and reevaluate their spiritual values, certain values, sensual, emotional, creative values as well, a reassessment of the perception of beauty, and again, relationships with one's finances. That is, some legislative moments, agreements previously made, and so on. Therefore, attention should be paid to all of this. And it should be understood that Aries is a very active sign. Here it's about initiative, about courage, about the quality of a pioneer, a trailblazer, the ability to take risks, yes, waging war, such a struggle in a creative sense. Therefore, this also indicates the vector, or defining evolutionary. Yes, the development path of our society. And so, if we gather all this together, we find that the Karmic Axis, or more precisely, its descending node, in conjunction with a fixed star of the highest order, that's Bennett, right? This is the 27th, 28th degree of Virgo. There are 27 degrees in 10 minutes, if my memory serves me right. This translates to handle of the Big Dipper. Well, I think you all know. In the sky, the Golden Dipper. Yes, 7 stars. So, the handle of the Big Dipper. This signifies mourning for a large number of people, oddly enough. But on the positive side, it can provide strong intuition, compassion, and help in dangers. It all depends on what level of consciousness development you are at, what your connection with God is, and how much stock of piety you have, how much graceful energy you have accumulated and possess, because any problem, any situation, even an illness can be resolved. Yes, if you have a stock of piety, a stock of favorable, well, let's say high vibrational energy, then everything can be corrected, everything can be fixed. But if you are empty, like a dead battery, you have nothing. You're running on coffee, yes, on all sorts of things. I don't know. Vodka, cigarettes, porn. But there's no energy. Not at all. And accordingly, you, as it were, one situation breaks you too. There's no end in sight. Because there is no piety, no margin of safety, you see, and a person is like this, either taking off or landing, and so on. Therefore, our task, the purpose of this spiritual practice, is not for the sake of spending money on candles, yes, and contributing to the Russian Orthodox Church, increasing their budget. No, that's not the point at all. The point is for us to have a certain reserve of energy, to be connected with God, with the Creator, and to live our lives consciously. And then, when there is energy, we can overcome any negative situation with you. And if there are many of us who possess energy, yes. And if we are also conscious, and if we know how to work with intention, then we can do whatever we want. We can establish peace where there is war, change any ruler, and so on. Well, don't think that I'm rambling. Yes, some might say, Blagomir, you're really going off the deep end, sitting there at your bowl. Your mind is going from the coconuts, but I rely on Vedic sources, again. And for me, this experience is kind of indicative when there were times in the past when sages, there were mentors. Holy sages were mentors to kings, to rulers, yes, of the society of people. And so when the holy sages saw that, for example, the ruler of the kingdom was not fulfilling his Dharma, or he was arrogant, hard-hearted, meaning he was causing suffering to the people he governed, they could use the power of collective intention, simply, yes, as if to destroy him in an instant. That is, not just to dethrone him, but to cast a curse, and he could just, well, end his life in that body in an instant. Simply because of the curse of the sages. Well, that is, they kind of maintained this theme of Dharma, that the ruler must observe Dharma, meaning the people should prosper under him, not suffer. Do you understand what I mean? And now what's happening? Now it's complete chaos. So, if we have this blessed energy with us, if we know how to work with intention, then we can consciously, create a positive scenario for the development of both our lives and this world. Yes, we can ask, please, yes, universe, hear us. Help us on the spiritual path, and let other living beings, our rulers and so on, also be filled with light, love, grace, and all the best qualities. And sooner or later, if we keep knocking on this door, we will definitely be heard. But we need to start with ourselves, because as we are, so are the circumstances and the rulers. Therefore, all the injustice in this world, all sins, all transgressions, all negativity that exists, it's all our own doing. And those who understand and realize how reality is structured, they say, well, yes, it's all a manifestation of our own collective good, in quotes, while those who are selfish, asleep, they say, it's them, it's Vasya, he's bad, it's Petya, it's all them. What do we have to do with it? We're the holy ones here. You see, let's move on to look at the ascending node of the Karmic Axis. Throughout the entire period of the Eclipse Corridor, there will be, as I already mentioned, in combination with the stellium of planets and On February 28th, I already mentioned, yes, what's happening. A great parade of planets, 7 planets will be on one side of the Sun. These are Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, Venus, Uranus. And next to them, to the east, will be the bright Jupiter and Mars. And the influence of this parade will persist until mid-April. I emphasize again, until mid-April. Therefore, during the eclipse corridor, not only the energies of the corridor will unite, but also those of the planetary parade. Do you understand what this means? And this is very, very important. And the ascending karmic node, the Sun, will add unprecedented activity to all these events. Therefore, our task, I emphasize again and again, is to have a powerful spiritual practice, daily. No intoxications, be in practice in prayer so that we can withstand and also receive blessings, some, let's say for ourselves, gifts from the universe, from the Almighty Father. Let's move on. What else needs to be realized? I mentioned such an interesting star, yes. Its name is Algol. It's not just a star. It's the star of the devil or Medusa Gorgon. This star, it's also called Algol or Ahriman. It's Beta Persei. Its position is 27 degrees, Taurus. I believe it's 26 degrees, 24 or 24 minutes. So it's 27 degrees Taurus. And in translation, it means the eye of the devil or the star of the devil. This star consists of 2 stars which have a vampiric connection between them. Algol. B, the less massive star, BYBIT. Yes, loses matter to Algol A, the more massive and brighter star. And look, from the perspective of the laws of physics, yes, we see that the one with greater mass, yes, the more massive star, bends space around itself more strongly, and therefore time as well. And it, having greater mass, and therefore gravitational force, begins to devour or attract the smaller star. On a simple level, if we bring this down to our lives, it turns out that when you have a large amount of energy, you start to bend the reality of space to yourself. That's why some people are heard by the world. It obeys them, so to speak. Their intentions are fulfilled because they have a huge potential of energy. And others, they bark, yap, something there, jibber jabber. And no one hears them. The dogs bark, but the caravan moves on. I'm speaking figuratively. I don't want to offend anyone. But just as an example, when there is no energy, nothing can be done. And stellar mechanics show us this very clearly. So it turns out that this vampiric process, yes, makes Algol hotter, brighter, as one star feeds off another. You see, Algol B. The smaller star, a white variable star, represents the head of Medusa in the hands of Perseus, Medusa Gorgon, if we take Greek mythology and astronomy. And the name comes from Ras Algol, which means the head of the demon. Another name is Caput Algol or Caput Medusa. And according to legend, the star Algol is the head of Medusa Gorgon, slain by Perseus. And Medusa is the only mortal among the 3 Gorgon sisters. She was once a beautiful maiden, but Athena the goddess turned her hair into hissing snakes, because she bore children, Chrysaor and Pegasus, in one of her temples. From Poseidon. And she became so hideous as a result of Athena's curse, that anyone who happened to look at her, remember the myth of Medusa Gorgon that turned to stone. Therefore Algol was known to the Jews as Lilith, and they considered this night demoness to be Adam's first wife. The Chinese called this star Cai Shi, the assembled troops. And also, Algol is part of an eclipsing binary, star system. Why? Because the darker star in this pair has the nature of Saturn and Lilith. The brighter one conveys not only Saturnian, but also Mars-Uranus-Neptunian influence. If the darker companion is facing Earth, invisible destructive actions occur on Earth. These are the hours when Algol is less bright. In ancient times, people were very afraid of it because they tracked that the activation of Algol brought disasters, violence, death, and mass unrest to Earth. It is the most malevolent of all stars. It is given in rotation or aversion from the true path of Dharma. On a person's path, everything becomes ominous. Often, for example, people are struck by various kinds of madness, including paranoia and mania. Fatal seductions. If Algol is located in, for example, well, there you go. With a strong position, then a person will, well, in a person's horoscope, the person can, for example, be a demon seducer. They may have enormous fame, often notorious, including through blood, murder, and others. Look, for example, we have such a character, Morgenstern, right? A person who promotes certain culture and values? Well, it's very interesting. Now, I already mentioned, yes, that you can pay attention, or not, but look at what's happening in the world. These are not jokes, yes. The rearrangements in the starry sky, these are not jokes. It's, well, it doesn't matter at all here whether you believe in something or not, like someone sitting on the couch. Oh, that's nonsense. Nothing will happen these 30 years. The forecasts say the same thing. Well, it's all, as you know, a narrow mind. Look at the fires in California that happened, yes, where half of Hollywood burned. There are cleanups happening smoothly, you know, in the scale of the entire planet, the era of the wolf. The wolf is the forest's cleaner. It cleans up all the filth that we have accumulated on the earth. And accordingly, why did I remember Morgenstern? Because now, like a good boy, he's removing all those tattoos from his face. 666, death, those inscriptions he had tattooed on his face. Now he's removing all of it, you see. The world, because it's different. People are becoming different now. People are waking up. No one is going to consume this demonic, let's say, energy anymore. People are starting to awaken. There's a demand for other energies and different energies. They are descending to Earth, yes, manifesting from the heavens. Let's return to the topic. From it emanate very strong, including highly spiritual rays. That is, look, both light and darkness dance in one dance. Depending on the time, sometimes there are very strong negative influences, and at other times, the opposite. Therefore, only those people who have already reached a high level of spiritual development can accept the influences of this star. That is highly spiritual rays. Algol, you understand? It can bless such high-level practitioners, this star, and those who are at a low level, completely in ignorance, in unawareness, it will burden even more with illusion, negativity, and so on. That is, this is a unified concept, a unified architecture of the universe, if you will. Therefore, I repeat again and again, focus on spiritual practice, so that you are able to withstand certain influences, including negative energies, so that you have a reserve of strength, so that nothing can destroy you, so that you and your children, your families, and so on, remain healthy, and so that your affairs go well. Therefore, it is necessary to engage in practice. What other initiation do I want to give you? Well, of course, I want to give, first of all, initiation into our great calendar, yes, into the calendar of the great Slavic ancestors. Look, the period, the Eclipse Corridor, this is March 20th. March 20th. I have already noted that this is the time of the spring equinox. Yes, if it's relevant, write comments. We will discuss this separately. The events. The astronomical New Year arrives, as well as the Slavic New Year, the year of the stinging hornet and the Persian lynx. These New Year holidays completely coincide with the Earth cycles and its renewal, that is, with the cycles of nature. Not like, as Peter the First instilled in us, yes, the shadow elites installed for us, yes, from the 31st to the 1st as the new year. No events occur at all, neither on Earth nor in the sky. That is, it's complete chaos. Well, people celebrate, it's fine. They put up a Christmas tree, get drunk, make Olivier salad, and those big bowls of salads, yes. Well, as they say, that's how it is. But no one understands. Further look, If we take the calendar of our ancestors, then it turns out to be the year 7533 from the creation of the world in the Star Temple. It will pass. Under the totem of the stinging hornet. That is the new year 7533, or, correctly speaking, the 533rd summer of 7000. Summer. Our ancestors didn't say year, right? They said summer. Summer from the creation of the world in the Star Temple. Precisely. When the serpent was defeated. And so I have a question. Well, Slavic brothers, where did 5,000 years disappear from our calendar? It was 7,000, right? Now it's the 7533rd summer. And they tell us it's the year 2025 now. And where is 5,000 years? And I will tell you where the 5,000 years are. It was in relation to the Slavic people. Chronological weapons were used. The essence of chronological weapons is the destruction of history. Concealment of history, destruction of chronicles. Thus, there was an attempt to destroy, to remove 5,000 years from the collective consciousness, in order for there to appear a people who do not remember their kinship, an easily controlled, completely foolish structure, absolutely unburdened by any intellect, any will, people with whom you can do whatever you want. And what is needed for this? First, it is necessary to destroy the connection with the ancestral power, with the roots of these people. And this has been the case for many, many hundreds of years in relation to Russia. This was done to the Slavs. And this project continues. But I've already said that the forces are changing their alignment. So that's why we are awakening now. Therefore, here is the knowledge for you. Here is, turn on, remember yourself, remember your kin, your great ancestors, the wisest ancestors. You see, the true sorcerers, the saints, who were not just aware of where each country is located, but knew about the laws, the principles of the universe, about the power of the kin there, and so much more, you see. Let's return to the calendar of the ancestors. So, the stinging hornet, what is this year about? Which, well, this animal is an archetype. Yes, these are all archetypes. It is associated with its determination and strength, as the hornet fiercely defends its home, its hive. Therefore, it can bring each of us courage, ferocity. I remind you that sometimes you need to sting to protect what is yours. The hornet is not just an insect, it is a symbol of swiftness, decisiveness, and bravery. We all face challenges dealing on the spiritual path, but it is these very challenges that give us strength. Therefore, the hornet teaches us not to be afraid, to act quickly and precisely. And as our ancestors said, the great ancestors, I especially emphasize, our great ancestors, let sleeping dogs lie. Do you remember such a saying? Surely you do. Act thoughtfully so as not to bring trouble upon yourself, and not to step on the sting. Well, let's add this as well. Let's add the transit of Saturn at the end of March, which moves into Pisces for 2.5 years. Again, a very fundamental topic, the transit of Saturn into Pisces. If you're interested in getting an initiation into this event, do write a comment, and so to speak, Blagomir Yuryevich, we want to hear about Saturn in Pisces, because for 2.5 years, the rules of the game in the world, in the matrix, will change drastically. Yes. There will also be an emphasis on spiritual development. I'm kind of warming you up. Spiritual practice should be daily and consistent for you. Pray for yourself, for your family, for your children, for all the people, for all humanity, for the entire universe. Do you understand what this means? If we don't do this, well, fine, we don't show willpower. We sort of feed on these nasty news. Then, who does it? Then the Dark Ones do it. They also pray, but only for chaos, destruction, and suffering. They fulfill their Dharma very well, the dark forces, you see. And here we are, foolishly sitting, chewing on this, consuming this informational filth, and we don't manifest the luminous power of our consciousness. We don't go towards the light. Well, if you don't want to, fine, as you wish. But the Dark Ones, they manifest their will. So what? Therefore, everything is fair. Everything is fair. Then it happens. So what do we need to do? Wake up, awaken, manifest our will in the world. Will. Determination. Do you understand And it all needs to start with ourselves, with our own lives. As one classic, a general used to say, he said, guys, before you complain about the world, yes, change the fate of the world. First, get up in the morning and make your bed. Yes. That will already be the beginning of change. So you always need to start with yourself. Next, what else? I would like to understand that the most important parts of the body during the eclipse corridor will be our feet, bodily fluids, yes, skin, liver, head, kidneys, adrenal glands, lungs, all paired organs. These are the weakest points of the body, through which diseases can pass. Injuries can occur, and various afflictions can come, precisely during the eclipse corridor, so be careful, be careful. And so, it means I would like to specifically focus on the total lunar eclipse, which will occur on March 14th, 2025. This is a blood moon at its apogee. But again, if this is relevant to you, let me know if you want me to record a separate video about the total lunar eclipse, the blood moon. We want it. Blagomir Yurievich record about the total blood moon. It's important for us to know. Again, I will provide recommendations for each sign here. And the same goes for the partial solar eclipse. March 29, which is in 2025, also let me know if it's relevant. I will talk about it in more detail because right now I am generally discussing the corridor. And I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that negative influences in the eclipse corridor will intensify. Negative influences, what does that mean? The desire to take revenge on someone, to destroy an opponent, a competitor, to punish. The urge to do everything your own way, even to your own detriment. You know, like going out without a hat just to spite your mom, yes, and getting frostbitten ears. That's the kind of story it is. Even further, the thirst for enrichment, greed at any cost. Yes, money doesn't stink. Yes, like now I'll trick this one, deceive that one, all of it, money doesn't stink. That is, to avoid all this negative influence of the eclipse corridor. All of this should be avoided. Not to quarrel with anyone, to love everyone, to thank everyone, and to show what? Patience. Great patience and compassion will be a great benefit to you. So, my dear ones, keep this in mind. Now, let's move on. As I promised before, the recommendations for each sign during the eclipse corridor, I wanted to share the program of the mystical marathon, Pekon. Eclipse corridor. So look, the link to this marathon will be attached to this video, but you can also write in the comments. Vladimir Yurievich, I want to join the Eclipse Corridor Marathon. I understood everything, that one needs to engage in spiritual practice. I want to join the marathon, and we will respond to your comments. So I will review and send the links to the website where our program is described. Here is the program. I'll briefly explain the essence of the marathon, which is that we combine Vedic knowledge and practices for working with ancestry, and my proprietary method for working with the subconscious, neopsy. So, what do we do? During the eclipse corridor period, we will be healing karmic programs, cleansing ancestral channels, and transforming the psyche. A full-fledged mystical work with the subconscious, which is why the marathon is called the Mystical Marathon Eclipse Corridor. So the structure of the marathon is as follows. 1. We enter the eclipse corridor. Lunar eclipse on March 14th. Then the period between the eclipses from the 15th to the 28th. Here we work with the ancestral line. Here we release past traumas, work with the subconscious and with ourselves. I will provide you with individual dream interpretations. Well, I already do this on my Vedic channel, but within the marathon, I will specifically analyze your dreams that you will have during the eclipse corridor. So moving on. This is the transformation of fears and shadow programs, meaning what we are not aware of, what is in our shadow. Yes, some of our unresolved issues, grievances, and so on. Next is the ancestral debts and healing of these debts through forgiveness. Next is the financial flow of the energy of abundance. The next level is relationships, love, karma. This is all within the framework of the eclipse corridor, within this marathon. Next is the healing of the body's cellular memory, working with ancestral programs of success and prosperity. We will also be doing serious practices here. subconscious, purpose and soul mission. And accordingly, next we prepare for the solar eclipse. Then we have practices during the solar eclipse and reprogramming, yes. Creation, writing the script for a new path, yes. Setting intentions, meditation on activating intentions, and so on. It's a very powerful program. So, if you want to participate in this mystical project, it will be held online. Almost every day during the corridor, we will have practices. Write to us, or follow the link in the video description, or leave a comment, and we will send you a link with the participation conditions, and so on. Next, as promised, recommendations for each rising zodiac sign during the eclipse corridor. Aries, your focus is on personal transformation, health, and releasing negativity. The mantra I recommend for your transformation is Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, a mantra dedicated to Shiva. Next, rising Taurus, where is your focus during the eclipse corridor? It should be on relationships, partnerships, and love. That is, analyzing karmic relationships and working through past connections. Meditation for heart harmonization, balance, and energy. The mantra, Om Shukraya Namaha. For harmony and love, Om Shukraya Namaga, the mantra of Venus. Next, Gemini, your main focus is work, health, and service. So here are practices for stabilizing the psyche, affirmations for realizing your purpose, meditations for connecting with your lineage, working with ancestral knots, and a detox for the mind, meaning less social media, more nature. The mantra for you is Om Ashom Prith Boom Budhaya Me Namaha. Om Boom Budhaya Namaha is the mantra of Mercury. Next, Ascendant Cancers. Your focus is on creativity, children, and unlocking potential. Here are the recommendations. Working with childhood traumas through the Nopsi method is possible. Next, meditation for activating and healing the inner child. Analysis of ancestral programs related to creativity, and rituals, prayers for connecting with higher powers. A good mantra for you. Om Som Samaya Namaha, the mantra of the moon. Are you an ascendant? Where is your focus? It should be family, home, ancestral roots, meaning work with ancestral memory. Meditation on connecting with ancestors is encouraged. By the way, on my channel there are meditations, the power of the lineage, a lot of mystical meditations. I have given you access for free, and you will discover a paradox. What is freely available, people tend not to value. They don't even click on half of it. That's why everything is unknown. To you, please, use it. Enlighten yourselves, yes, well. Somehow mystical meditations like I don't know. Why people treat such precious treasures? Well, they don't scroll through the feed. They don't engage with very useful practices, like the practice of forgiving childbirth. And then the mantra. The mantra, Om Suryaya Namaha, for Leos to strengthen the sun, followed by the ascending Virgo. Your focus is on communication, thinking, and learning, so it would be good to cleanse yourself of destructive mental programs here, work on your negative beliefs, and practice forgiveness of yourself and others. Yoga and breathing practices for cleansing, the mind will benefit well here. Avoid gossip. You need to refrain from negative conversations, from speaking ill of others and yourself. And a Vedic mantra for you, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. This is a mantra associated with Lord Krishna. Yes, it is very powerful. Rising, Libra. Your focus is on money, values, and self-esteem. Therefore, it is good to work on financial blocks and ancestral money programs during the eclipse corridor. Here, the practice of reprogramming your financial consciousness will work well. Charity is good to do for cleansing the karma of wealth. And Vedic rituals for prosperity. And such a mantra, Om Lakshmi Vigansri Kamalatharaya Wup Namaha, that is the Lakshmi mantra, or Om Lakshmibhyo Namaha, that is the Lakshmi mantra. Next, ascending Scorpios. Your focus is on personality, transformation, deep as always. The theme of recommendation. It's good to let go of the past, set up energetic protection through mantras, rituals, deep work with the subconscious, the theme of regression, meditation. And working with karmic knots will be very beneficial. Here's a mantra for you as well. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ascending Sagittarians. Spirituality, focus on past life. Higher knowledge. And here it is very good to work with your karma through Vedic practices. Perhaps someone will manage to go, well, a spiritual retreat. Yes, participation in a mystical marathon is highly recommended. Fasting is beneficial. Also, meditations on lucid dreams, connection with mentors, with spiritual guides. Reading sacred scriptures, especially Vedic scriptures, is also very useful. A mantra for you. Om Nama Narayanaya. Om Nama Narayanaya. This is very beneficial. Next, Capricorns. Your focus is on social status, career, ambitions related to your career. Here, it's necessary to work on limiting beliefs. Also, become aware of your awareness to receive your true Dharma, your purpose. Perhaps engage in good Vedic practices to attract success, yes, and perform meditation or prayer to connect with your higher purpose, with the higher. Well, with the higher self, a mantra related to Saturn. Om Sham, Shani Sharai Namaga. Om Sham, Shani Sharai Namaga. Rising Aquarius. This means your focus is on friends, like-minded individuals, social connections, and projects. Recommendations. Here it's good to step out of toxic relationships, practice awareness of your true path. Vedic mantras for harmonizing the group. And also set up energetic protection from the influence of others' karma. And this mantra is very good. Om Rahavi Namaga. Om Rachavi Namaga. A mantra associated with Rahavi. Next, Pisces. Your focus is on the Eclipse Corridor, karma, mission, your deep transformations as well. A good practice is the rebooting of destiny, which needs to be done, deep work with the past. Again, this can be done through the method of neopsy, realization of missions, spiritual path, and Vedic rituals for cleansing negative karma. And a mantra here is also very good for you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Use it. Therefore, my friends, this Eclipse Corridor is a very powerful portal, as you have already understood, for transforming your destiny. For healing your negative ancestral, including your own karmic programs. So use this time consciously and direct the energy towards changing your reality. It is precisely for this we have created the mystical marathon Eclipse Corridor. Therefore, everyone is welcome. With this, I conclude my message. I sincerely wish you, your families, your relatives and loved ones, your children, health, happiness, love, prosperity, kindness. Please take care of each other, look after one another, love each other, and understand that we cannot be truly happy until we are all happy. You cannot be a wealthy, content, well-fed person when people around you are suffering and starving. But the heart and soul cannot rejoice. Therefore, our task is to help our neighbors, to care for each other, for our loved ones. And further, more love. Share this love with the world, this care, this goodness. This is what I inspire you to do, guide you towards, aim you at. And I try to think and act the same way myself. I embrace you, my precious ones. See you soon.